It's a beer podcast, not always about beer. So there's that.
All right, welcome to Florida's Drinking Report, brought to you by Sailfish Brewing Company. I'm your captain, Dave Boucher. Here with me, my first mate, most important mate, Brian Tonneson.
Heyo.
And we're joined today with our special guest, Emily Hayhurst.
Yay!
Welcome, Emily. Coming to you live from Sailfish Brewing's Vero Beach location.
The best.
Located in Vero Beach, on the beach. All right, guys, this is our first podcast. A beer podcast, not always about beer. So what does that mean, Brian? Why do we start this thing?
Well, today it is about beer because the three of us happen to have full beers right now.
We do. What are we drinking today?
And for those of us, if this is the first time you're meeting myself, Dave, or Emily, it's very rare that we have full beers in front of us.
That is very first statement.
It's typically, we're halfway through. Emily and I are plotting margaritas shortly thereafter.
When are we having tequila?
It gets a little weird. So, folks, for the first one, this one's going to be pretty weird. But, man, you know, Dave, I think you and I always talk about, just being in beer industry for so long and wearing every hat and doing a bunch of things. It becomes ever so difficult to bring people into this cozy little fire of beer, this cozy fire of the beverage industry. I think some of us, we get a little jaded, we get a little, phased out of it.
Curmudgeoned, yeah.
Right. And man, this is really a fun business.
It really is. It really is. And you have to remind yourself of that because it's hard to amortize over 12 months of the year, that positivity, especially in Florida where we're extremely seasonal. So, trying to broadcast that over 12 months, same enthusiasm, same motivation, same positivity is extremely hard to carry that through, especially the summer months.
Right.
And I call them the summertime sadness or summertime blues.
Summertime blues is a good one.
We're in the midst of that right now, middle middle August. I wish it was October, but we're in the middle of August right now.
It might as well be October.
Based on our conversations today, yes, that is a fair statement, Brian. So, to the point, though, why we started this thing, and to echo what you said, it's how the sausage. So many people ask me all the time, or make suggestions, or do this, and there's so much behind getting beer from the brewery to that beer you see on the shelf or on a draft line at the restaurant you go to, and there's a lot that goes into that, and people. It's just you don't know, and it's no one's fault. It's just there's a lot involved in this industry. There's a lot of reasons our beer's in some places, not others. I think throughout the course of this, we're going to help explain that to people and maybe shed some light on some of the challenges and extremely great opportunities that exist in this industry for any brewery.
Right, and all the cool things that happen in this line of work, and a lot of cool things with other people's line of work that kind of relates to our business. Which is why this podcast isn't always about beer.
Well, to getting back to beer,
right?
We have Emily as our guest today.
Awesome.
Welcome, Emily, again.
Thank you.
So, Emily, you have been in the beverage industry for 6 years?
6 years.
6 years.
Six long years.
And you and Tonneson share a history together?
Shared.
At least 6 years.
Shared trauma, shared victory.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of PTSD, seriously, that you're still carrying with you from your earlier days.
It's like we were both in the same gulag. But also it's like we also went to high school together and had a good time there.
That's a very great analysis of that, yes.
It's the dichotomy of both, but I've watched Emily from the sidelines for a while. The fact that I've been on her team twice now, it's incredible. And you're legit a wealth of knowledge. I think on top of everything else that you've accomplished in this business, you're a badass chick in this line of work.
Thank you.
Sorry to be sexist. Sorry, a sexist would say. Women in our industry, it's, my eyes opened to this just shy of a year ago of the real struggles that you guys go through and some of the challenges that you have, over, a loaf like me who just kind of rolls in. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for you to just be the top of your game, one of one, it's been pretty cool to see so far.
Thank you. Happy to be on your team.
Yeah,
for real.
Dynamite. Very cool.
So with that being said, history in the industry, you cut your teeth on beer, then moved on to spirits and wine. Kind of tell us a little about the differences on selling beer to selling spirits.
Beer.
Yeah.
Night and day difference, definitely. It's just you're going from talking barrels to talking barrels, talking kegs, to talking liters, talking different language. It's a different language, and the selling technique is different. It's just a completely different ballgame.
I remember when I was with Brown Distributing at a sales route in Miami, I was doing very well. I had a lot of independent retail, and this vodka company from Miami decided to distribute with us, and I'm like, sweet, look at the dollars I'm gonna make, dude. I've got it in. I've sold every damn beer in my book to these guys. Let's go sell some vodka. And I walked in the store, and the minute I said the V from vodka, the smiles turned into frowns, and it turned into a price per ounce.
Yep.
And what's your bottle one cost, and what's your this? And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, man? Just buy my vodka. And it was
It's good, I promise you.
Was not. I learned right away. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't. And then I spent like 7 years of my life like trying to sell vodka.
And that's just spirits.
Right.
And then wine.
Oh,
then you get
gosh.
into wine. And
Didn't even get into wine.
Wine is its own other thing.
Yeah, I've seen you in your element, both you guys, on the wine side, and
Right.
both you guys do a very elegant job of presenting that to people. But that's a whole different
It's a presentation.
deal in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing.
What would you say is the biggest shock coming from cutting your teeth? Which, spoiler, this is the funniest part of our preamble here. Emily didn't know that was a term. Cut your teeth. She looked at Dave like he had
Teeth
fangs
on
growing
his,
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
teeth on his face.
It's like, what are you talking about? Cut your teeth.
I'm like,
So
please don't
anyway,
make me do
now
riddles.
that we're over that, to that end, what was the big stark difference for you, Emily, going from a local craft brewery who somewhat a powerhouse where they, planted their roots, and you bringing them back to life to selling spirits? I think, that was your transition, correct? You went
Yeah.
from a supplier for beer to a supplier for...
I sold rum, a local rum.
Right.
on the West
What was
Coast.
that stark difference between the two?
Definitely night and day, because it's going in looking at tap handles to then going in talking about what's on their menu. You're
Right.
looking at menus. When's your menu turning over? How can I get a feature in here? Whereas, of course, you want that for beer, but
Right.
it's very important to do that and get that feature, get that menu placement, what have you, for a spirit or wine brand.
For me, for beer, you look at that tap list, you go, I could take that one. And
Right.
man, let me ask them about that one, if that one's doing anything. And then you look behind the bar for the spirits, and it's like, oh, they've got room for 3 in my bottle. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
Not even a
Nope.
little. And you want that one placement, you better
know how to.
shell out some dollars.
You better know how to plug the game.
Yeah.
Find the
And,
loophole.
and so much of it's relationship driven too.
That
And,
too.
yeah.
tell us about a little about trying to leverage your beer relationships and then transition to spirits at that point.
Well, I think that the relationship component of it was so important at that time, because I definitely didn't have the spirits or wine experience, and my relationships with accounts were so helpful in teaching me spirits and
Right.
wine. I'd be like, listen, I know it's this, I know it's that. I can tell you 3 key selling points of why you're gonna like this and why I think it makes sense for you, but beyond that, you might have to tell me the rest. Like this cost per ounce. I'm like,
Right.
what? I picked a major in college, so I didn't have to do math.
Right.
Like, please don't make me
Isn't
do
that
math.
so funny that like that's
do
what we
math.
ended price per ounce and logistics. I never, if you
Yeah.
told me
Right.
hungover Brian at 22, guess what you'll be doing? No.
I thought I'd be drinking it. not
Right.
Doing math.
Correct. That's exactly right.
So
No,
that
but it's definitely good.
no, go ahead.
No, it's yeah. You hope your buyer is like, oh, I got you. That math in their head's already ready, and I'm
Right.
like, but you do have to learn it. You have to know.
So in your 6 years of the beverage industry, you went from beer, spirits, and wine, back to beer and some spirits. What's changed in the past 6 years in the industry?
Oh my
And
gosh.
plop COVID right in the middle of that.
Everything has changed. I feel like right when I started, it felt like things were kind of getting different then. I think the sales rep's role looked a lot different. I was a lot more sitting with accounts for more than just not necessarily going in and out, but you were sitting there, you were having a beer with them, you were talking with them, and you were
Right.
building, and you were going to maybe 6 accounts a day.
Yeah.
Whereas when I kind of jumped in, it was do or die, and
Oh, it's
our
Yeah.
previous owner, it was very much, he looked me in the eyes and was like, if you have to sell, if I need to sell 20 kegs a week and it takes you 20 stops in a day to sell 1 keg, how many accounts are you going to in a day? And I'm like, well, shit, there's the math on that one. I
Right.
guess I'm going to a lot of accounts in a day. I guess I better hope every account takes a keg.
And-
So I was everywhere.
well, back then, and it's so different now, but back then, like I always felt like that was like somewhat of a necessity. It's like
Right.
cast a wide net.
You have to.
Yeah, it was, and now I feel your visits are a little bit more measured. You're more. It's less about trying to place a beer. then build a relationship to know what beer in your book makes sense for them.
Right.
Whereas before it was, I'd go in with a book of 600 beers. Hey, I've got these 600, and if I placed one of them, I was a hero.
Right.
Now it's a lot more measured. It is a lot more competitive than it was.
I was going to say on the other can.
I used to say, craft beer or beer in general is 98% asshole free, and I don't think we can say that very much anywhere. There's a lot of assholes out there.
Yeah, it's so.
I'm one of them. So
the relationship building side of it's so much a big deal.
Very
That's
important.
Where, we term we could cut our teeth on was focus on building relationships, and that's where you can establish longevity, is doing it through that way.
Right.
But again, relationships will get you so far sometimes, and you're at the mercy of just different other challenges in the industry, price, portfolio lineup,
right.
Locality.
All the different things that play into it. So there's a lot of challenges.
A lot that you're up against. It's not just like the buyer just wants that beer, likes that beer, and it's like, I'll take it.
Right.
There are so many other things that they have to consider before that can even cross their brain.
For sure.
Or the yes can cross their brain.
Yeah.
What's the big challenge for 2025 in your eyes for everybody out there? I mean, it's
industry in general.
It's very cutthroat, and every segment feels very oversaturated.
Right.
So you're kind of going up against trends, of course, that have stuck around, like your White Claws, of course, and your RTDs, but it's kind of getting back to finding out what the consumer's drinking and what they're wanting between beer, spirits, and wine, and that's kind of the hardest thing to figure out what everyone's drinking, because you have the LDA drinkers, the low drinking age group, they're drinking.
Explain what does LDA mean?
Lower drinking age.
Lower drinking age, okay.
So that is your 22.
a fancy way to say kids.
Kids, Gen Zs, those kids.
That have no loyalty at all and don't
No,
even like kids.
They want something healthy that's going to get them drunk fast. And there's also, though, too, the Twisted Tea drinkers that you got to worry about. So it's finding out again what everyone's drinking, and that's changed so much since I started, and then plop COVID in that, and that's where I think the better for you category with the White Claws and that trend really took off, and everyone was just trying to keep up with that. So
it's everybody wants to plant their seed in Florida, and they all have that. The 0 calorie, 9% alcohol, no carbohydrates, no sugar.
Right.
And it's $3 a bucket. But do those stick in Florida? That's always been like my thing.
And then throw out there that now we've got THC.
Right. I was getting at that.
It's always something.
We've launched in 2 states, and Florida's one of them. And it's like they came with everything they had. It was everywhere.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from a consumer standpoint, they're inundated with so many different things, not only in just one segment, but multiple segments, multiple offerings. I mean, how do you guys see as a consumer? How do you reach out to them to convince them or to try your firstborn or try your first step of whatever that is you're trying to sell? How do you convince them to do that?
It all starts with
my upbringing is with imports, and every import brand that I've ever worked for had a story. Everything had this great lineage.
That's a great point. You say their story. Story is huge.
So important.
I remember when we launched Wells Banana Bread beer in the state, it was about the mineral water. That Charles Wells himself grabbed this stick and walked around and found this water, and this water was going to produce X amount of beer and have this much iron and whatever. Bellhaven had its story. Bitburger's beyond, the story of the beer itself. It was its bartership with, or the bartering process with the United States military. There was so much stuff, and I'm going to brag on Sailfish a little bit. We have the luxury of insane quality. The Sunrise City that I'm drinking right here is the same one I had 6 months ago. And for a brewery our size...
Not the same one, but tastes the same.
Tastes the same. Yeah. No, it's not. No. It's from... Okay, different batch. Different...
Some people don't know, man. Some people don't know that beer does have a shelf
That
life.
was my kind of philosophical, dumb guy, smart guy way of saying consistency.
Right.
The beer is consistent. How about that? Better. Have another beer, Brian. No, but to that end... we have that luxury. So for us, coming into 25, we're going to be telling a lot more stories of our beer. Dave and I and Emily, we've called them fish stories. So it's about letting people know who we are. And if you jive with that, that's awesome. We want you to come to our party.
Well, the most important thing, and like you had just mentioned there, you're rambling off stories of other brands that you remember. getting people to remember the story, because
Right.
the best advertising and marketing you can have is the word of mouth.
Right.
People repeating to you some great story, they can resonate and have a relationship with that brand or
Right.
that beverage. And that's where you can really, that's when you feel like you made it,
Right.
when they're at that point. But there's a lot of work that gets to that point. And I tell you what, I mean, I can go on and on about all the work we put into what we do for planning ahead. And,
Right.
and you talk about trends, and trends are exactly that. They're trends.
Right.
So how much do you dive into something that is kind of untested? It's one of those things, if you're just now doing something now,
Right.
for a trend's already taken off, what are you really doing? Because how
Little
you
bit
make an
behind the eight
impact?
ball,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're behind the 8 ball, so why do it? So, I just wanted to expand upon what you're saying there with regards to that.
Well, focus is your friend in a fractured market,
Yeah.
right? You can sit there and, like Emily and I talked about, casting a wide net. You really can't do that anymore. You have to be
No.
very measured with
Laser focus.
right
Very.
what you're going out with and what you intend to tell the best story humanly possible about.
Yep.
Right.
And in the same breath, stand behind the liquid that is getting produced, and that's from our end. From the other end, it's making that relatable. I mean, sometimes we do get stuck in our own little silos, our own little bubbles, and think that like our oh well, that's brilliant on our end. Well, let's run it by them to think if the people who are
Yeah,
actually our
that's it.
fans think it's brilliant. If they don't like it, well, we can't keep jamming that square peg in a round hole.
Is this
Yeah.
a time to talk about our tea?
Oh, you can
No.
edit it out.
That is what Brian calls Voldemort. We don't bring up that name anymore.
I mean, maybe it'd be good for people to talk about.
and segueing now to our next conversation. No, to Emily's point, and you can feel free to talk about it. Yes.
I just meant as
we learned a hard lesson.
You try to go
Pun
with
intended.
what you think the consumer's drinking.
And being
you-
late to the ball game on something potentially.
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe it just
Well,
it,
the big failure for
It wasn't us.
no, it was us because I don't drink hard tea. Dave sure as shit doesn't drink hard tea. I think your
don't drink hard tea.
sisters were the only people that we knew in our immediate sphere that drank it. So when it came off the line and we're cracking it and go, man, we
Great.
got something here. And listen, it's like my whole body shriveled up. I evaporate. We did this thing called the Sailfish Challenge.
That was
yeah. That
Please,
was
Brian, continue.
my heart
disaster.
still goes out to
I'm
you.
like, you guys. Remember Pepsi back in the day? Like, they did this thing. Well, like 8 out of 10 people will pick Pepsi. We need to put this on video. It's still on my phone. Put it behind the scenes. These people, they did sign waivers so we can use it. I have people telling me how trash our hard tea was. It's like legit. Like,
Hey.
no, I will
Learned
never.
a valuable lesson.
Yeah, right.
And we will stick to making beer.
And I remember we got back. I go, we're really good at this. We are not good at that.
Yep.
So
and it's good
yeah.
to know. I just feel like it's something.
Hey, listen,
know your identity.
Extremely
It's
valuable
so
lesson to
important.
learn.
Right.
And we learned a lot from that, and I think it's helped us plan ahead for future endeavors of how we approach this the right way and the time associated with that.
and go a long-winded way to go to the end of that question, but it's like, for people in the trade, do what you do best.
Yep.
Right. That's the best way to fight that challenge of 2025. Do what you do better than anybody. We all have that within our means and our motion. Don't try to be the next X or Y. Don't do what they're doing. Do what you do.
Right.
You do what you do, and you'll get on the other side of that finish line.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Emily, you sell beer from, let's say, Broward up to the Melbourne, actually Orlando area. What are the differences you see? We talk about selling beer, the challenge with it. Do you have different approaches you take in those different markets?
For sure. Florida should be divided up into like 5 states because
Fair.
every
Wow.
market that I've
Yeah.
sold in has a different selling approach. Palm Beach has its own. Key West, the Keys in general have its own.
Oh, that's right. You lived in Key West for a year.
I did
Yeah.
selling.
How was that experience?
So much fun. Hungover.
Right.
So hungover. And but like with it was such a great experience because I was so used to selling in Palm Beach County, and it's you're up early, you're dressed up, you're going out, right? And down in the Keys, you're not starting your day until noon.
Right.
And I remember texting an account down there, and I was like, "Hey, coming by." And I was like 9 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, hey, coming by around 11. And then, like, they texted me back at, like, 3 o'clock in the day. And they were like, we don't do that here. That's too early. So your day starts at, like, noon, and it ends at, honestly, midnight, because you're out, because everybody's out at that time, and the people you want to see. And one of my best connections I ever made was with hotel resort, and he just happened to be sitting beside me 9 o'clock on a Monday, and I was like, I'm just gonna go out here and wing it on a Monday. And it was right when I got down there and had to make some placements, and he was like, oh, I hear you sell X brand. And I was like, yeah, and we just got talking, and it turned out he was like the district manager for a big chain resort hotel, and ended up getting a placement on that menu for that brand. And it's just, you never know where you're going to be and who you're going to meet at 9 o'clock on a Monday.
Key West was always one of those places. I found it so strange that it's not a traditional, market visit.
No.
You're going to other bars with owners of other bars.
Yeah, it's fun. It's so much fun.
I'm like, wait, you're coming with us?
And once you spend some time down there and get to know the people, it doesn't take long to become a local. Right?
Yeah, like a pseudo-local completely.
To me, some of our best relationships are down that area. And
some of my
really
best friends are in Key West.
Yeah, right.
And best, relationships.
Key West
and
Beer
accounts.
Fest coming up in 3 weeks. So
That's,
strap in.
Hold on to your liver for that one.
Yeah,
That'd be a good
you
one.
got squirted last year.
It's
What
not
now? You got squirted last year.
That would have been a victory on any other podcast. It's not that kind of thing. Although it could have happened at dinner with somebody 40 years older than me. That
it happens to the best of us.
That would have been interesting.
Okay, explain to us what happened.
I had to walk away from that one.
All right, so let's give the Wikipedia version here. So we went out after the beer fest, or are we talking about me getting squirted first?
Well, where do you want to start? Because that was
because I was talking. Well, anyway, there's this tradition that goes on down there between some very fine and outstanding and very classy gentlemen. And this tradition involves shotgunning a beer before the beer fest. Although one of the gentlemen, this time it was me, as opposed to punching the beer, poking the beer, and drinking the beer, they blow it out of the top onto the person. I was that person.
So you had a reverse shotgun.
Reverse shotgun, but from here on out, it is called squirted.
I thought it was called a blowhole.
Is the blow
blowhole?
Is the blowhole?
Yeah.
And the thing is, I was just an idiot. I'd been so removed from Key West.
Well, I remember now we were at so shout out to Brian Miller,
the man,
Key
the
West,
legend,
the greatest,
the best,
good friend of ours down there. He owns a bar called Bearded Lady, and we're sitting at the bar, Brian Tonneson, Brian Miller, and I, and Brian Miller's trying to tell me, hey, we need to get there a little early because they're gonna blowhole Tonneson.
Brian's gonna get squirted.
He's gonna get squirted. So we were inadvertently trying to have that conversation. So it was well planned out.
Well, the thing is, we went to Bearded Lady because I was like bragging. I'm like, that's never happened to me. X amount of years in the business, it's never happened to me. I'm glad I missed that. And Miller's like, oh yeah, I'm glad you did too. 8 minutes later. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, hey, I didn't think I'd be able to watch college football today. This is awesome. We got to go. Okay. None the wiser. Just, it happened.
And then on top of that, when you did get fully squirted, you got doused in the middle of the hottest time of year in Key West and one of the hottest places in the United States of America.
Jimmy Buffett had died earlier that morning.
That was a monumental weekend.
Yeah,
that was a monumental
weekend. It rained on us for about 8 seconds. And
R.I.P. Jimmy.
Off to the races. What Miller made up, though, I had what they call the Brian Miller in my house. That is a large glass of Jameson with a Coke back. So that's how we made up for it.
Yeah, it usually solves most problems, if not all of them.
A handful.
Yeah, handful.
Yeah.
Handful. Good recovery.
Not every, but a handful.
I like
it subdues them at least.
A good, tall, frozen shot of Rumplemints to get me where we need to be.
Oh, yeah, we can. Oh, boy. Well, it's changed from Rumplemints.
For you, it's changed from Rumplemints.
We can dive into that if you want.
Tell us about So Brian, he exposed me to this a couple years ago, and it was a way to, I guess, handle the ups and downs, like I talked about earlier, of the industry and the seasonality of that. So explain to everybody what is the reminder that we do on occasion when we're either down or up.
So we are, at the end of the day, we are in sales.
Yes, sir.
Every day presents its own challenges. The beer industry has a different sort of way. It's not traditional sales. You're not relying on, referrals. You're barely knocking on strangers' doors. It is a very finite amount of business that we can go into. And some days you're very successful. Some months, some stretches of months, you feel like you can do no wrong. But ultimately, you need to know that things will turn. And certainly in this climate, it will turn. Conversely, there's going to be days where you can't get a win. And
where you cry.
Yeah, where it's like, why would I even go out today? I'm like 0 for 15. No one's talking to me. No one's buying for me. So my mentor, the great James Arzor, introduced me to this sort of method, and I've only implemented a handful of places. It is you pick the worst thing in the world to take a shot of at any given time when you're riding a very big high or if you're at a very big low. You take the shot when you're on a very big high because you know that the bad times are coming. They are on their way. Adversity is either here, it just left, or it's on the way. Those are the three things about adversity. So remind you that while things are good, bad times are coming. But when things are bad, it doesn't get any more worse than this shit that we're about to shoot, right?
And we've done that on a few occasions.
And what happened each time? I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious, and it's worked every single time.
Yep.
It's time, Dave.
You're batting 100 on that one.
We recently, the changes in Sailfish specifically, it was Goldschlager for a bit, but that was too tasty. Some people actually cheered for Goldschlager.
It was me also. I
Right,
cheered.
which, who does that? Then, we asked our good friend at Second Street Bistro, what is the worst thing that you have? And he takes out like this 30-year-old bottle of Rumple Mints, and I'm like, that is it? That is what we have to do. It
Delicious.
is trash. It is just god-awful. It tastes like plastic.
No, it doesn't.
And that was our shot for a very long time. Our last one that we took for the season of our team that time was at Jumbie Bay, and it was warm Rumple Mints, so it was even better. And now we've recently
I don't remember that time.
A lot of us don't. The recent transition is just Jägermeister. I think if you're over 27, that just is bad news.
Well, that's also one of my favorites. That's what I carried around in college.
Right.
No chasers. I would just drink Jaeger
We
out
did.
of the bottle.
So after Beer Olympics, you did the shot of Jaeger, and we didn't see you for like 15 minutes. But I think that's valuable if you have a sales team to have little traditions like that, because you're not always going to be high on the hog. Things aren't always going to be, whatever. You are going to get a crushing blow.
Success is temporary, and failures will fade.
100%.
Yep.
Caterpillars
Yep.
are temporary.
They are.
Caterpillars.
Caterpillars.
That's the new name of the podcast. This is a Caterpillar Club.
So, segueing to, let's say, the downward side of things.
Sure.
Seasonal fatigue in
Right.
the beer industry. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with what seasonal beer is, it's a beer that comes out during certain parts of the year. Florida, don't really have seasons, but we follow those trends as well, either way. And the season we're upon us right now is pumpkin season.
Right.
So there's no focus on Oktoberfest beers, or it's turned into 100% pumpkin beer. And that's been going on for how long, Brian?
The better part of, I would say 2002, 2003 in this part of Florida, but other parts of the country, you want to say the late 90s or early 90s. Yeah.
So, Emily, your experience with seasonal fatigue, have you had to sell this pumpkin-flavored beer before? What your experience has been? Has it... Everybody wants it?
Well,
the
I'm a
consumer?
pumpkin girl. I am
God.
by term a basic bitch. I love pumpkin everything. I wish it was around year-round and always there at my fingertips.
So you'll sit there and drink
I enjoy
6
it.
pumpkin beers.
I love selling pumpkin beer. At a time when no one could... let's take it back to Shipyard. When they rolled out with a pumpkin seltzer, and the look on everyone's face was like, what the
Well,
fuck are we
that
doing
I
with
think
this?
was overkill.
No, it wasn't.
No,
Not for me.
Well,
But everyone wasn't ready for that.
no,
And
they weren't.
I was.
Right.
And I was right. I did.
I'm going to say time out for 1 second and need a refill. Is anybody else?
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah. Taylor, Tori, could you guys help us out with some beers, please? I appreciate that. Light Tackle,
Sunrise again.
Sunrise.
I'll do papaya.
Oh,
thank
wow.
you.
Okay.
I do
Would
want
change
to
it up.
Would you like me to do lager?
You can do whatever you want.
You do whatever you want.
You are free to make whatever decision you want.
You have a
Wow,
White
that's
Claw.
first.
You have a White Claw if you
a
love it so much.
first.
We actually have pumpkin seltzers for you. No, I'll dive in on that. I mean, for me, what really got me into beer as a young lad was walking into I can say that. Was walking into a grocery store in New York and seeing Saranac pumpkin beer, Shipyard Pumpkinhead Ale, and like, oh my God, this is like the greatest. And it brought that enthusiasm and really sparked an interest of what beer could be. Pumpkin doesn't have a flavor. I just like cinnamon, allspice, and brown sugar, all those things that like replicated pumpkin pie. So those two are like very crisp in my mind. The granddaddy of them all that really got me into, how beer could be so seasonal was Sam Adams Oktoberfest. And I'm not alone in that. That's a whole generation of people, a generation that I'm in, that are very mindful of that beer. I think what's happened over time is us being in the trade, seeing it, understanding what it takes to get something like that onto a shelf.
I feel like the word pre-order is a 4-letter word.
Yeah. And
God,
it's like
pre-orders.
No, and it's like, all that stuff. It's like, pre-order 200 cases or 400 cases. And we get that, and it's like, it's not enough. Or we've pre-ordered 190. Well, we're only going to take 180.
It is such a crapshoot trying to forecast for that.
Right.
And, I mean, how have you guys done that in the past? How do you forecast for these seasonal beers?
On a macro level, as a rep, you're going store to store and saying, how many could I put you down for?
Yeah.
When you're a brand manager,
so
or you're...
when you ask them that, do they always live up to that commitment, saying, okay, you said you buy 10, here's your 10.
In 2012, if they asked for 10, it meant 20.
You have you told me a long story a long time
true.
ago that happened to you about an event you were doing where they committed to.
Well, that was an Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
which is kind of similar.
Yeah.
It's the seasons of overlap for us.
Right.
Where Oktoberfest and pumpkin beer have somehow become the same thing.
right. Well, a lot of people look at like.
Sorry about Tori.
It's time.
The fabulous Tori boy who runs Vero Beach for us.
The greatest.
Replenishing us right now. Thank you very much.
And she just got that much more cooler.
Cheers, guys, by the way.
Cheers.
First
Cheers to
podcast.
Tori. Cheers to Vero.
Emily, thanks for coming on for us.
Producer Nate.
Happy to be here.
Oh, Nate behind the camera. Thank you again for putting on this great production.
Bad luck to drink from that one.
Twice a month.
But going into it, us being in the trade, and I just spent a great afternoon last week with the great Steve Jones, and walking in those stores, it's like late July, early August, and they are top to bottom with pumpkin beer, and that is just like, because for us, like our beer wasn't coming out until middle of August, early September. We had to push it up just to meet these expectations.
Well, and why do we have to
Right.
push it up? Space.
Right. That's it. That's exactly right. And it gets earlier and earlier every year. And I think for us that is that.
Well,
that-
you're saying Sailfish will never do a pumpkin beer?
I hope not.
As long as I'm alive.
Thank you. Oh,
I feel like I try every
I
year.
could kiss you.
And I'll accept, I love a good, beautiful Oktoberfest, which
Right.
we have.
Beer flavored beer.
Do I wish we had a pumpkin beer? Yeah, but, I'm not going to win that battle.
No, I think there's still a place for them. I think people, we can't discount the enthusiasm that those beers bring.
Me.
Because we're sitting
Not in August, though.
You're the first. You're the first person in the trade that's been like, "Yay, I love it!" And like,
I think if we collectively asked how many people
right.
love pumpkin beer versus...
If we did the opposite of the Sailfish Challenge and said, "Hey, are you ready for pumpkin beer?" Like, you can gauge that enthusiasm, that reaction. You can't.
Do you go
Right.
to a Starbucks to ask that question, or
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
they released theirs.
You go to a
now, too.
Target in 4th of July week and ask
gotcha.
people if they're ready for pumpkin beer.
Got it.
But to that end, I think those beers do have their place. I think for us in the trade, we get a little like, really?
well,
Again,
what
like-
I've seen, and you guys have probably seen the same, is you go out to these same stores that bought, 100 cases of whatever pumpkin beer that's out there, and it's still there in January.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest discerning thing is the fact that, like, how do you pre-order this stuff and it's still sitting there? I mean, the whole idea is to have the beer be fresh.
Well,
and how is the beer fresh 5 months later?
and that's
Being that they brought it in probably in July.
and that's that's how everything is so different now, because you couldn't have enough to get out to trade.
Oh, for sure.
I remember working for a smaller brewery in Palm Beach, and we put out 500 cases of our pumpkin beer, and it sold very quickly to the point where the owner was like, "We have to do this now and again," and I'm like, "No, we're done." Because
Honestly,
the
that's
no,
specific.
The food truck model is where it's at.
right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, because
Get it next year.
because he didn't do that for the pumpkin beer, because we released a pumpkin beer and an Oktoberfest at the same time. He did the Oktoberfest again, and it came out different. And there was it like drastically different.
So it wasn't the same Sunrise he was drinking last time?
It was no, it wasn't even the same beer, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, we both experienced that on multiple different levels.
How do you explain to an account when the beer is different?
That's the point.
So the thing is, I know that you were buying the beer that you got like a month ago, but the Vienna malt was changed in this one to make it a little lighter in appearance, and that lighter in appearance changed the flavor and the whole like.
Giving breweries a bad name.
Well,
I mean, it really just does. It tarnishes the.
We were done with the season in September, and I got an additional like 400 cases September 15, and those beers do not sell after October 1. They don't, and you can't even give it away.
No, it's October 2nd is Thanksgiving,
and not to mention,
then October 3rd is Christmas.
And the thing is, I couldn't lean on that beer being exactly the same as the first go round, which went great. It went better than great. Like, we were like high-fiving each other, and for whatever reason we did it again. And that's the other thing, you have a finite time to sell these things, so that's why it keeps getting pushed up further and further. It's in the stores in July. If you're at, like, for me, if I'm planning these things out, we're done September 1. If we don't have another stupid seasonal beer to sell after September 1, I'm thrilled. Great season. High five, shot of Jaeger, call it. The problem...
Giggles on that one. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. And we pulled out the bottle of her back pocket. Yeah.
Right.
Here you go.
Well, you don't say. But
ask for Mr. Jaeger and he shall appear. Honestly, ask for Rumple, and I swear that is like... I can picture that character completely.
Mr. Rumple. Yeah.
You know,
that's a great mascot.
Well, when we were... Emily was in Key West... they had, what was it called, Dr. McGillicuddy?
Yes.
And they would be at the bar and say, "Oh, do you need a shot or a call from the doctor or something like that?" Or,
was that dumb root beer thing that I took?
No, that was a barrel shot. Yeah.
God,
that's another delicious moment in time that needs to be shared with everybody else. Taylor is summing that up. She loves barrel shots. She heard that from afar. You do not turn down barrel shots.
Oh,
that's
barrel
a Key West
No,
thing.
I didn't turn it
Green
down.
Parrot, everybody.
I regretted every second of that. I went to Dave. I'm like, hey, about to Irish goodbye, all you guys.
About to Irish goodbye your pants.
It was
That was that. That was that.
It was 8:30.
That was that. Mary Ellen's.
After multiple bottles of wine.
Multiple bottles and look, I was just coming off.
Or not at Mary Ellen's.
I was just coming off 60 days from drinking.
You were
a 60-day sabbatical, and right out of the gate, picklebacks. Let's go.
We sound like we all have a drinking problem.
It's true.
It is.
Sound that way.
It does become a problem occasionally.
It becomes a problem in Key West.
Yes.
And like Key West Beer Fest is just such a reunion for everybody. It is.
It's the excitement level.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's excited.
It's so fun. Yeah. It's like this big
It's like the first
week-long.
night when you go on vacation. Everybody overindulges, and it's
the festival itself for all the reps. We're hurting bad, and we can't wait to leave.
It's 1,000 degrees outside.
It's so hot and humid and wet.
My first one. It's young Brian. He's 20-something. He's all excited. I'm doing a beer fest on the beach. It's the greatest day of my life, and doing backflips and all the gimmicks. And I'm like, hey, I can take my shoes off and put them in the sand. This is great. 45 minutes in, that sand turned into concrete.
Couldn't buy your shoes.
Get me out of here. Yeah, no, just please.
Key West Beer Fest is actually where I was introduced to Sailfish.
Well, there you go.
I was like, oh shit, this is better than what I'm selling. Oopies.
A lot of people say that.
And cheers.
And cheers to that. Yeah, there you go.
No,
right.
So when it comes to fatigue, I think that's more of like an insider thing, right? Where it's all of us, together. I hate diving into it from here, but what I love most about our business, and again, I know I said 98% asshole free, but it's not like the Toshiba guy and the HP guy who are direct competitors with each other. It's I often find myself next to at a bar, sitting next to someone who someone else would be considered like a competitor, but we're in the same business. I mean, we can sit there. I can order their beer, they can order my beer, and we can just talk about how the day went.
We're buddies,
right?
We're all buddies for sure, and it's definitely a different kind of camaraderie that you have, even though you are competitors. But you can never. It doesn't. We're not. No, we're not.
Technically, it's competitors. Certainly on the supplier side. I was never kind to a rival distributor rep. Like maybe at Florida Craft, I was kind to somebody else, but when I was with Brown, I was not kind to the Gold Coast guy. Like not even like a little.
Well, that's a different era though. That's
right.
that, what, 9 years ago, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
And while I say not kind, I'm like, hey pal, how you doing? It's like I'll fill your meal, but it'll mostly be head. Like,
So I'm like, I've never been like the petty rep.
Right.
I've never had it in me, and it's always just like if I see someone else with another shirt on, I don't care where you're from. I'm just like, hey, I want.
and that's the
to know
thing.
when
There's zero pettiness. Like it's shared experience.
at the end of the day, we're
all
selling
going
beer.
through the same
guys.
shit,
I mean, we're
and it's
not out
hard.
there splitting atoms.
Right.
We're selling beer. We all face the same challenges.
Right.
There's enough room out there for all of us, and
There
I think
certainly
that's what
is.
everyone forgets, and it just gets so nasty, and that's where I think the fun gets taken away from such a fun industry.
Yeah, I disagree. There's no more room for anybody. No.
Well, yeah, that was one of the biggest questions I got asked when we started Sailfish, and other breweries started. We were the first, brewery to open up on the Treasure Coast, 11 years ago, and other breweries started popping up after that.
Right.
And they're always people ask me, "Are you worried about the competition?" I said, "Well, no, I never looked at it as competition. More brewers the merrier. I mean, let's create like a destination here." But my concern was always bad beer.
Right.
If you're 10 years ago introducing people to craft beer for the first time, you want that beer to be good. Because in general, it doesn't matter what brewery you are. If
Right.
their first introduction to craft beer is bad, they're going to put all of it off.
Right.
And that's, the biggest challenge we had, or biggest challenge I think we had as over the past decade with craft beer is just the fact of, the beer can be consistent if done the right way.
Right.
It's a hard thing too, I feel like, when everyone at that time was making big beers, like big pastry stouts, big wild yeast ales, and milkshake smoothie IPAs, and all kinds of stuff where you're like, you don't know what you like. And I mean, it's hard to figure out what you like because there were just so many different things.
It really shifted from, beers when I was a kid was like Pete's Wicked Ale. It's like, this is a 4% brown ale, that just...
It's classic clean
It's
style.
awesome. And then 10 years from there, it's a 12% Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels and aged on vanilla beans and all sorts of stuff. And it's like, I don't even know what I'm tasting, but this is a 12% beer. Oh, shit,
And they're lining up the door,
Yeah.
waiting on that 16-ounce 4-pack, paying $20.
Right.
Just waiting for that release of
And,
that.
and now that segment just doesn't exist anymore.
No.
Yeah, it's really transitioned to more fresh, local, supporting local.
Right.
Having the connection with the brands that have been, working to establish themselves over the years.
Right.
And less focus on the big hitters. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you make beer-flavored beer.
Right.
It's really not that complicated to create these crazy flavors that are out there. Making good, consistent, good beer-flavored beer is the most challenging thing to do out there.
A beer that tastes like beer that, if you bought it on Monday and the next batch comes in, tastes the same on Thursday.
Or I don't have to tell you, I know the can says it's a lager, but it's actually a blonde ale. Sorry about it. I know.
right,
It's the same thing.
It's all the same.
Yeah,
We'll never
it's
figure
all
it
the
out.
same.
You could
Yeah.
get away with being deceptive like in 2012, 2013.
I know.
You could be deceptive, and now like credibility is a big thing.
Yeah, a lot of blonde ales
sure.
out there disguised as lagers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Know the difference. Know the difference.
I mean, it's like, well, it tastes the same. No, it doesn't.
No.
Not even a little.
And that's not
Yeah.
even from like a beer nerd standpoint. It's like straight up. Those are two very different beers.
Well, beer nerds now are more industry focused.
yeah.
Do you know what I
that's
mean?
fair.
Like they used to follow pages on Instagram that were like, "Oh my God, you've got to find it. It's one of one. I'm the only one who has this bottle." Like I remember there was a time where like people would take empties of like Heady Topper and put them up on eBay. Like they would drink the can of Heady Topper and then sell the empty can on eBay, and people would go nuts for that.
I mean, we had that with like Maple Bacon Beer Fest and Hunnapoo.
Right.
I mean, that was like people still have their bottles, and then I think it was
Go nuts,
the past 2 years post COVID. Everyone's like, I got all these.
Well, now you've got these beer nerds. They're like, "Oh, so beer distribution, how's that going?" Yeah. And like, buddy, what do you know about? like,
Well, it's again, you don't
and
know what you don't
used
know.
to come.
man.
They used to come up and tell me, like, "Oh, you've got Woodford Reserve barrels at the brewery." Oh, everyone does. And then it was, and now, right? And now they're like, running a 3-week TPR in the middle of August. Huh? Dude, shut up.
but that's how cutthroat and nasty it gets. It should be so fun, but it's like that's what.
No,
we're-
but like complete randos. Like, well, come on, dude. Like, we're not. can I just have a beer? Like either way, don't bother me with things that you think you know.
I always say there is a reason why that can is in your hand. You didn't pick it.
Yeah, I was
Right.
going to bring
We
that up.
picked that
That's
for
something
you.
you say numerous times, and the more I hear it, the more it resonates.
Right.
There's a reason,
marketing.
whether it's getting it in front of people, cans in hands. That's the most effective thing you can do is put that beer can in that person's hand, let them try it, and
However-
constantly in front of them.
However, if I hear liquid to lips one more time, I might lose it.
Again, there's certain things that like are
Liquid to
still
lips.
carried through that past decade of craft beer, but like
We
that's
can let
of
that
them
one
where-
die. Let's let that one die
yeah,
off. Let's
yeah.
think of something more.
Well, no, come up with a
Just
funnier way
better.
to say it. Like,
Well, it's a transition
shove
of
this
like
down their throat. Like, there's got to be a more fun way to say it, but like, it's a lot of
business
these
jargon.
It's a lot of these,
Yeah.
a lot of people in
Synergy.
leadership. Yeah, they hear all the corporate words and they want to be like, and then just
it's corporate jargon.
Look,
Synergy,
we're not
synergy."
boiling the ocean here, and we're not reinventing the wheel.
It is what
the
it
first
is.
thing we have to do is get liquid to lips. All right, then it's synergy. Shut up. Hey, I heard them all. I've heard them all. Yeah,
It's just a little fireside chat, if you will.
yeah, for sure.
All right, so to round that out on seasonal fatigue, where are we at with that right now?
We like seasonal beer. We think
Yep.
there's too much of it.
Correct.
Maybe dial it back a bit. Run that food truck model
Yep.
if you're gonna do them, and like
Know that some of us still love pumpkins. So
Correct.
if you are a pumpkin fan and you put it out there,
Be specific. Pumpkin spice.
Right.
is what you're
no. I don't
Pumpkin
want this pumpkin spice.
doesn't have
If
a
I-
flavor.
if I put a
It's
gourd-
like
I
soup.
want it to taste like pumpkin.
You want it to taste like pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie tastes like squash. Pumpkin tastes like squash. If you
I-
gutted a pumpkin and ate it, it does not taste like a pumpkin beer.
I don't care what kind of form it comes in.
I will
I
get
just
you.
want it to taste
I
like
will get
pumpkin.
you brown sugar, allspice, and cinnamon in.
I
anything.
don't, but I would eat a pumpkin as like I love pumpkin puree, like a little baby. I love pumpkin puree.
like a little
With,
baby.
with her pumpkin
That
and her
is-
bottle of Jaeger in the back
Nate-
pocket. She's all good. So yeah.
Nate, can that be the thumbnail for this one? Like a little baby, I want pumpkin puree.
All right, guys. We need to wrap it up today. Closing comments, Brian?
What an absolute thrill to be here in Sailfish Vero. If you find yourself up this way, please come by. It is so different in all the great ways from our Fort Pierce location, which is equally as great. The menu is drastically different and delicious. The beer pours incredibly cold and awesome. You got to come by.
Come see Tori.
Come see Tori.
You gotta get
for
on
sure.
over here.
You gotta. Wow, you gotta get over.
You gotta get over here. the fingers
All right. Any more comments, Brian? Or you got a few more?
Hit that like button and subscribe. I had to say it. Someone
All
had
right.
to. Yeah.
Emily, closing comments. Thank you for being on today, by the way.
Thanks
Great
for
having
having
you.
me.
Great,
Happy to be here.
just industry talk and your experience in
Yes.
industry.
You're welcome. Happy
Anything
to
you
be
want
here.
to shout out to anybody? Anything you want to close this out with today?
More pumpkin beer, everybody.
Okay. More pumpkin beer, more Jaeger, apparently.
Yeah. I never said the Jaeger.
You're on
pumpkin
your
beer.
own.
And that's the way I like
Guys,
it.
cheers to our first podcast, first of many.
Glad it got weird. I'm
Yeah.
very happy it got
Always.
weird.
It will always get weird when I'm around. Let that
Tori
be
Taylor,
known.
thanks for having us today. We really appreciate you using the space, and we'll be here every other Wednesday, every other Tuesday
Taylor's
from
like,
here on out.
please leave.
I know we're getting a lot of side eyes right now. So Nate, thanks for setting a great setup today. Excited to see how this comes out. That's all the time we have for today, guys. Check us out on YouTube. This will be posted on Monday, and more to come. Thanks
Awesome.
again, guys. Florida's Drinking Report.
Woo.
Woo.
Woo!
Okay.
Wow.